So, we're going to actually talk about EIEPs. Who knows about EIEPs? Who understands billing methodologies? We actually simplified them in EIEP revisions, and we simplified them by going from 3 different methods to 4 different methods. And we changed the names to something that might not be as descriptive as what they were before. And so EIEPs, their purpose is to enable a standardised format of data exchange between retailers and participants. There are 13 EIEPs, and we were saying before, EIEPs 1, 2, 3 and 12 are regulated. They've been developed and revised over a period of many years, actually, and there have been many versions issued actually with them. The reason why we regulated EIEPs 1, 2, 3 is because there were so many versions in use, and we wanted people to all use the same version for efficiency purposes. So it's a standardised set of formats. You can locate them actually right here. You can transmit the file between retailers and distributors using the EIEP hub that we were actually talking about just before. And yes, the hub will send and receive any information possible. We are also looking at changing the hub to allow third-party providers to actually connect to the hub actually itself. So EIEP 13A is the most recent one. You won't be interested in that because it affects traders and consumers. But there are some business rules. Regulated formats must be used unless both the trader and the retailer agree. So we said before that for EIEPs 1, 2, 3, trader and distributor can agree to opt out. If they don't agree to opt out, the regulated format must be used. Once opted out, always opted out, unless the retailer and the distributor agree to opt back in. Some EIEP formats, well, we just talked about that. If a distribution tariff schedule is time blocked, what EIEP do you supply? So we wouldn't expect that if you had an anytime rate, so maybe your tariff for a domestic consumer had a register content code of UN and period of availability of 24 attached to it, that you would receive half our data. Our view is that you would receive EIEP 1 with that information actually already time blocked, unless you ask the retailer to provide half our data, in which case you would receive an EIEP 3. So we would expect that you would receive an EIEP for the tariff type that you've actually got in your pricing schedule. Another thing is all of the information that you receive in an EIEP should be daylight saving adjusted as well. So here's a list of EIEPs that we've actually got here. We have some guidelines on our website which has got more details actually on these. We have application forms on our website that if you think an EIEP needs to be changed or a new one produced, you can actually fill in that application form, send it to market operations, we'll look at it, wonder what we're going to do with it, and send it to the Standing Data Formats group, who will then go away and they will give us advice actually on it. One of the things that are actually within the regulated formats is the structure of the EIEPs. Now these are just flat CSV files. In fact, most of the market exchanges that we have are actually just flat CSV files at this time. So, billing methodologies. EIEPs, like I was saying, we have simplified it to 4 billing methodologies. And what do they mean? The first one is Asbill. And Asbill basically means what you see is what you get. It's basically what a retailer has billed out of their system within a month. So if a retailer has got a meter read here and they've invoiced the customer, you'll receive an EIEP recording the volumes that were actually invoiced to the customer at that point. If they'd done an estimate, because they hadn't read the meter, and they'd done an estimate here, in that month you would have received the estimated volume actually within the file, and the read will be marked actually as estimated or actual within the file. What you won't receive is unbilled consumption. You will only receive what the retailer has actually billed. So as-billed information is fantastic. It matches the retailer's cash flow, so it's what they've actually taken in. It doesn't match what you're going to see in the electricity market in terms of reconciliation. So as-billed is the first and the simplest method of EIEPs. There are some attributes that are noted actually in here, but we won't dwell on those actually at this time. But basically, anything that's active in the registry and billed by the retailer is within that file. Under and over estimates are corrected in future reporting periods by reflecting corresponding corrections applied to the customer's bill. Incremental normalised. Well, normalised means you've actually converted meter readings and billing into a true calendar month. So normalised means that if you had invoiced the consumer exactly at the end of the month, this is a picture of what you actually would have invoiced. So it might not have as much relevance to the retailer's cash flows, and in fact the retailer is sort of acting as the bank in some ways for the distributor, but it has a lot more relevance for the information you actually see coming out of the electricity market, because the submission information that goes into the electricity market uses something that we call effectively Reconciliation Manager Normalised. This one here, Incremental Normalised, is just a straight projection. So if we were to say in month one, we'd had a start read at the beginning of the month, we read the meter here, what would be reported by the retailer for incremental normalised? So you've got the actual read plus an estimate actually to end of month. And it's just a straight estimate. Accuracy could be anything, could be a straight line, who knows what a retailer might actually do. You get through to the next month and the retailer gets a meter read here during the next month. But the meter read is from that date in the month to that date in the month. So the question then comes, what does the retailer actually provide to the distributor for the normalised process? And that's sitting in here. So in month two, they provide the meter reading volume, so they take the difference between those two meter reads, or if that was an estimate, the difference between the estimate, plus an estimate from that meter read to end of month, minus what the estimate that they actually included in the previous month. So it all becomes actually self-correcting. So if you have a difference, you've got an estimate here that's actually incorrect, the next meter reading is going to correct it. So as far as corrections go, incremental normalised keeps correcting itself as it actually goes on. The reason why you would actually have a revision or a wash-up is if the retailer's found an error in its file that it's given you. So if they have to go back and revise information because of a meter error or failed meter, or they've found a meter or something else like that, what they will do is actually correct it within the same file. But the start and end date that they use for that ICP record in that file will be the start and end date for the period that they're trying to correct. If we look at the replacement normalised method of calculation, it is slightly different again, because this introduces the concept of historic and forward estimates that are used actually within the code in the non-half-hour profiling system. But like John was saying, it actually introduces the concept of revisions. If you're a trader and you're using replacement normalised, you can take a feed out of your reconciliation engine that calculates submission information to put into the electricity market to actually output into these files, because it uses exactly the same process. It uses something that we actually call seasonal adjustment shapes to actually allocate volumes into the electricity market itself. I'd actually skip two slides then. So if we look at replacement normalised, you're going to have your initial file, R0, and it's going to be an estimate. That's it. It's someone's big guess. If you looked at retailers' guesses for May 2015, they were about 3 or 4% out, actually. So there is actually quite a big error actually in it. And it's because of those estimates and guesses that go into it that the revision process is necessary. So R0, forward estimate. R1, you might actually have some information that you can actually use, but it might not actually be, for that month, you might not actually have a meter read that spans over the end of month. So you will do a forward estimate for the remaining amount. Now the difference that a retailer has estimated for R0 and that they calculate and estimate for R1 will be different. So if you're using replacement normalised, it would be reasonable to actually expect that the distributor will do a revision. They'll actually wash up the costs actually allocated to the retailer. If we step a bit further forward and we say, okay, well now they've actually got it 3 months after the event, they've got another read that actually spans the end of the reporting period. The retailer can use seasonal adjustment shapes to actually allocate volumes accurately, and it is reasonably accurately to within that particular month. But the volume that they create for that month for R3 will be different to what they had for R1 and R0. So again, a retailer would reasonably expect that there would be a revision actually carried out because there could be changes that actually occur. So if you look at replacement normalised, there are these revision cycles. You get an initial file, there's a revision at R1, R3, R7 and R14, plus any specials that the authority may decide to actually go off and do. So you will be receiving multiple files for the same month that you will need to process. So that's billing methodologies. Incremental replacement normalised just means that the changes are reflected in the current month. It's just you have different start and end dates actually within the file. So they are the 3 billing methodologies. That's a quick flyover actually of them. The EIEPs do have a description of the billing methodology actually in it. Good luck if you can understand it. The pictures may be a little bit better than what the wording actually is.